You know, like this at the white stuff. They were nice. She had a hard time, but I really liked it. It looks like something like a little European. Let's see, we have a little water.
Get my glasses on. I can't see. I'm getting so old. Old chick.
Yeah, it's kind of, see down here at A2, on that one, you're not in IN.
I'm not nine, so I don't know. I know, what happened to, the last couple of minutes, my iron, they dropped me to me. That's why I've been over here doing. Councilman report. Councilman report.
Everybody ready?
Well, come on, keep the show.
Welcome tonight to the November the 7th regular meeting of the Abingdon Town Council. I would like to ask Deputy Clerk Tanya Triplett to call the roll, please.
Mr. Craig.
Here.
Mrs. Patterson.
Here.
Mr. Humphries.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
Mayor Lowe.
Here. And I'm going to ask Vice Mayor Rick Humphries to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If everyone would stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, as we start the meeting, if you will please make sure that your cell phones are on off. I would appreciate that. Okay, so now we're down to D, approval of minutes. September 6th, regular meeting minutes. These minutes were tabled at the October 3rd regular meeting for the review by the clerk. The October 3rd work session minutes and the October 3rd regular meeting minutes. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I'll move that we approve the minutes of the September the 6th, 2016, regular meeting of the town council, subject to the changes being made that are indicated in the memorandum from Cecile Rosenbaum to the town council.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And would you like to do the September 6th meetings? Let's do them separately from the October. So we're going to have roll call for the September 6th regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lo.
Aye. Okay, now we have the October 3rd work session minutes and the October 3rd regular meeting minutes. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that both these sets of minutes be approved.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lo.
Aye. Okay, now we're down to public comments. So at this time, the council will hear public comment from those citizens registered to speak. If you have not registered, if you will, please register. Please come forward to the podium as I call your name and restate your name. State your mailing address and identify any organization you represent. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments. Each speaker will be timed. Speakers are reminded that neither council members nor staff will address questions or otherwise engage with speakers during the public comment period. Very good. Okay. So we have Beth P. McCoy.
My name is Beth Perkinson McCoy. I live at 21039 Green Spring Road, Abingdon, Virginia. I've been asked to talk, and I'm going to step away for a reason, so trust me, I will be picked up by this mic. I've been asked to repeat what I said recently about walking on the Creeper Trail, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to just come share it the way I did with the other folks who heard me and said, you've got to do this for the town council. On October 20th, my brother and his wife from Alabama, neither of which are hard of hearing or anything like that, came to visit, and we decided to take a hike on the Creeper Trail. So I was, of course, showing them where Mary's Meadows was and where the hillside will be taken down, because I really care about this not happening. And when I got down to the spot where the Interstate 81 intersects with the Creeper Trail, I said, and over here is where they're going to put the sports complex. And my brother said, what? I said, over here they're going to put the sports complex. He said, I can't hear what you're saying for the traffic. I said, over here, I don't want to hurt your ears, over here they're going to put the sports complex. I got to the point where I was shouting until I suddenly went, oh my gosh, has anybody considered the noise pollution and what that's going to do for the kids who can't even hear the coaches and for the coaches who can't be heard? Have y'all thought about this? So I just wanted to share with you that everybody else thought I should share that with you too. Thank you.
Thank you. So we didn't have anybody else sign up. Does anybody else want to speak during public comment? Okay. Petitions and public hearings and first reading of ordinances. We're going to have a public hearing for consideration of proposed purchase of properties 3.54 acres more or less, laying and being in the Madison Magisterial District, Old Southway and Watauga Road area, being a portion consisting of 2.20 acres more or less. of tax map number 127-A-18, currently owned by John R. and Nina C. White, and being a portion consisting of 1.34 acres, more or less, of tax map number 127-A-10, currently owned by Cornelia H. Counts.
I suppose you wanted me here, Madam Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
And Honorable Council, this public hearing is required pursuant to the Code of Virginia 15.2/1800, the advertisement for which ran in the Bristol paper on Monday, October 31st of this year. This public hearing is held with regard to the proposed acquisition of the properties as follows. As you've already covered somewhat, 2.20 acres of tax map number 127A-18, laying and being in the Madison Magisterial District, Old South Way, and Watauga Road area. Portion of the property currently owned by John R. and Nina White, and 1.34 acres, more or less, of tax map 127A-10, currently owned by Cornelia Counts. Cost of the properties will be an amount paid partially from VDOT enhancement funds, and Mr. Worley will tell us more about that along with our town manager. The legal department would recommend that the council authorize the town manager to acquire the properties as described for the purpose of improving the Virginia Creeper Trail Road parking and restroom facilities, and that he may be able to execute any and all documents necessary to complete this transaction.
Questions? Council, you have any questions before I open the public hearing?
Did you want Kevin to do anything?
Kevin?
Mr.
would you like
Worley
to
may
speak?
want to talk some about, yes, if you do that. Thank you.
Mayor Lowe and members of council, this is a project that's been actually going on since 2005, believe it or not. VDOT has been very gracious to work with the town and allow us to continue to extend the funds to the development of the Watauga parking lot project through a series of things that have happened over the years, and the passing of one of the owners of the property has delayed the project somewhat at different times. So we've been able to work through all the processes. We are now at the point to where VDOT has approved for the town to move forward with the acquisition of property. And Mr. Kelly and myself have met with the property owners and worked out an arrangement to negotiate for the to the final compensation of the properties. VDOT through their own sponsored, through the project, had a VDOT appraisal conducted by a VDOT certified appraiser, and he determined land values for the project. We met with the individual property owners, negotiated some funding that they requested for their own individual lands. The VDOT funds will be used first to up to a certain value will be allowed to be used for the properties. And then through negotiating with the property owners, they've allowed us to make 2 additional payments. Instead of all of it being paid at one time, we'll make 2 additional payments. One in the 2017-18 fiscal year. Then the balance of the funds will be paid at the 2018-19 fiscal year. The land value for John White was $100,000. The VDOT appraisal was $30,815. The property for Cornelia Counts was agreed land value was $85,000, and the VDOT appraisal value was $21,015. The balance of those between the VDOT appraisal and the agreed land amount will be the amount that will be paid over the next 2 fiscal years.
Okay, thank you. So I now call the public hearing, or open the public hearing. Do I have anyone who wants to speak about this matter? We are having a public hearing for consideration of proposed purchase of properties laying in the Madison Magisterial District, Old Southway and Watauga Road area, in conjunction with the Virginia Creeper Trail. Do I have anyone who would like to speak on this matter? Yes, ma'am.
Nan Harmon, 498 Green Spring Road in Abingdon. And maybe I wasn't listening. Did you say that was for a restroom, or what was the land for that you're buying?
It's Mr. Kelly. Parking.
Yes,
area.
it's a parking area, a restroom facility, and an area that's large enough for horse trailers to be parked at.
Okay, I didn't hear what else. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do I have anyone else who would like to speak at this public hearing? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor Lowe, I would like to move that we approve the buying of 3.5 acres more or less lying and being the Madison Magisterial District, Old Southway and Watauga Road, consisting of 2.2 acres from John and Nina White, and 1.3 from Connie or Cornelia H. Counts. The purpose of those being for parking and restroom facilities, and also in this motion to authorize Greg Kelly to execute all documents necessary to complete this transaction.
Second.
Discussion?
Not a discussion, but, just so that everybody will know, I don't know how the rest of the council felt, but I think that we thought that this project, we would lose the money that we were going to get from VDOT in this sharing program, because we could not come up with, we thought we had a deal, and then Mr. Counts passed away. It threw everything in flux, and so we had to go back to the drawing board. And through the generosity of Mr. White and Ms. Counts, we are going to be able to have that parking lot, which, if anyone has been down on the Watauga Road section of the Virginia Creeper Trail, has just a small, tiny parking area. And do we still have the restroom facility where they incinerate the waste, or does that? Yeah, porta potties. Yeah, and so this will be a much better facility, much better sited for people to get in and out of that property also. So I'm very pleased that we were able to do this. And I'm really, really pleased that VDOT let us wait since 2005 to be able to draw this money, because I truly thought that we were not going to be able to come to fruition on this project.
I'll just add to that, Mr. Humphreys, that this will make it a much safer area as well in terms of parking, being on the opposite side of the road. And a lot of the people who actually park out there head toward Alvarado instead of back toward town, so it will put them on the right side of the road to be going in that direction. I'm not saying that that's always the case, because sometimes when I'm out there, I come back to Abingdon because I like to go downhill on the easy stretch.
Right.
I was going to ask that question too. I think that I recall that we talked about safety issues there as well, and it would be safer. The other thing I'd like to point out is it is a very tiny parking lot that is there now, and I think this would be an asset to Abingdon. As far as I'm a business owner, and I have a lot of business coming to my facility, and the number one attraction in Abingdon is the Virginia Creeper Trail. And so I think that we need adequate parking there in Watauga area, and I think this is a good idea, and VDOT is going to help us with the funding.
Council, roll call.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Second reading of ordinances, none. Consideration of any bids, none. Reports from the town manager and assistant town manager. I1, consideration of recommendation of proposals submitted for banking services for the town, and authorization of the town manager to execute all necessary documentation relative to the town's general and sewer fund accounts. Mr. Chuck Banner, Treasurer.
Mayor Lowe, members of council, I come to you this evening to kind of go over the request for proposals which we received in regards to our banking services, banking contract. RFP was issued on September 1st. It was for 5 years with 5 additional 1-year periods. The requests were due in by September 30th, in which we had 5 banks submit proposals. Of those 5, 3 banks required no balances, no charges for services, which we chose to list the presentations from. And of those 3 banks, we would like to recommend that we go with First Bank and Trust, and that's based off of their overall qualifications to do what they said they were going to do, the cost of services, capacity to provide all the services that were issued in the RFP, and also their creative and innovative responses to the request for proposal. Any questions?
Council, do you have any questions? Do I have a recommendation?
You want me to make a motion?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I move that we accept the proposal of First Bank and Trust and authorize the town manager and director of finance to move the the sewer operational account and the general fund account to First Bank and Trust.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Any discussion?
Mr. Craig,
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson,
Aye.
Mr. Howard,
Aye.
Mr. Humphries,
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Now, we also have authorization of Chuck Banner, Director of Finance, to move the sewer fund deposit account. This is a separate account, and he will explain this to you a little bit further.
Again, we, upon recommendation with discussion with our auditor, our write-up auditor, Ms. Tamara Greer of Thrower Blanton and Associates, she realized when reviewing those records that we were paying some service fees on this account that she felt was a little high. She made a recommendation to myself that we needed to go ahead and move to save the citizens' funds, to move that deposit account. And the sewer deposit account is an account that's held in perpetuity. It's based off of deposits that are applied to these, so it's just strictly a deposit account which is held. This account is currently with Wells Fargo, and since we've just, went with First Bank and Trust, my recommendation is that you authorize Mr. Kelly and myself to move those funds from Wells Fargo to First Bank and Trust in a separately held account.
What kind of fees will they be charging us?
There will be absolutely no fees. It was based off the same fee structure that they provided in their RFP.
So moving that one account will save us about $2,400 at least?
You're correct, sir.
Per year or per month?
Per year.
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Any more questions? Council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I move that we authorize Mr. Banner and Mr. Kelly to move the sewer fund deposit account to First Bank and Trust.
I second that.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Craig,
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson,
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. J1, resolutions. We are going to table the resolution of the Town Council of Abingdon for authorization to pick up the employees' contributions through payroll deduction through VRS. We need a little more information, and we discussed the resolution as it was presented to us from VRS, and we have some questions. So the Assistant Town Manager has recommended that we table that for another discussion after she gets some more answers. Is that all right with council?
Do you need a
motion?
since they use the word table instead of withdraw, would we need a motion on that?
To table it, yes, I think you do.
Okay. I'll move that we table J1, which is the resolution for council to authorize pick up the employee contribution through payroll deduction from VRS until further explanation is forthcoming.
I second that.
Mr. Craig, sorry.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lo.
Aye. Thank you. And now we're down to resolutions 2, a resolution of the council of the town of Abingdon endorsing the town's 2016 Virginia Smart Scale Project applications. John Dew.
Hey,
Public
Mayor
Works
Lowe,
Director.
members of council. Thank you. The resolution you have before you is going to act as a supporting document to the smart scale applications that the town submitted back in the end of September. And just as a reminder for everybody, Smart Scale is the current program that VDOT has to allocate funds to road projects. So it was recently, or in the past cycle, it was called HB2 was the system. Same program that we were successful in getting funding for the Exit 17 improvements. This year we submitted applications for 4 different projects. They're listed in the resolution. But for those in attendance tonight, the 4 projects include the Frenchmore Boulevard extension from its existing end at the cul-de-sac in the Tech Park over to Cook Street. The second project is the West Main and Route 19 intersection improvements. Third project is West Main and Jonesboro Road intersection improvements. And the fourth project that we sent an application in for was East Main Street widening from Hillman to Empire Drive, widening and access management improvements for that. Just like last year's process in the HB2 program, we won't know the results of these applications until probably June of next year. But again, this resolution before you tonight will act as a supporting document to add to all the information that was submitted with the original applications in late September. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Do we have to have, when we submit these, the cost estimate attachment? Do we have to do that?
Yes, each one of the applications has a cost estimate attachment.
Is there, and in their vetting process, is there, if you're too low or too high, is that vetted, because, is that part of the vetting process?
It's a consideration, but I mean, not to get too far into the description of the program, but there are 2 somewhat distinct pots of money, statewide and district-wide, that you go for, depending on the project. But these projects can be funded out of both, or one or the other. So the projects we have quite a large range of cost estimates, but it's not like they would exclude any of them, but it certainly is a consideration in VDOT's analysis or score of the projects.
Right. So of course, the local pot has a finite, well, both of them have finite amounts of money, but of course, the local would be much less than what the state fund would be.
Less total, but thus less competition, because if we go for the statewide funds, then we're competing against projects across the state, Northern Virginia and Tidewater area, and all the ones that get the big projects, seem to get the big projects.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council, I'd like to read the resolution into the record. Whereas Virginia's Smart Scale program established a prioritization and scoring process for the Commonwealth Transportation Board to objectively evaluate projects for funding, and whereas Smart Scale is an application-based process available for counties, cities, and towns, and public transportation agencies to provide the project funding, and whereas the town of Abingdon, Virginia has submitted applications for funding through the Smart Scale process, now therefore be it resolved by the council of the town of Abingdon as follows: that the following Smart Scale applications for the town of Abingdon, Virginia are fully supported and endorsed by the council of the town of Abingdon. Project Frenchmore Jr. Boulevard Extension, Project US 11 Lee Highway at US 19 Porterfield Highway intersection improvements, Project US 11 Lee Highway and State Route 140 Jonesboro Road intersection improvements, and Project Widen US 11 East Main Street between Hillman Highway and Empire Drive. Now therefore be it resolved by the council of the town of Abingdon, Virginia, that the above-listed 2016 Smart Scale application projects have the full support and endorsement of the council. Council? What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lo?
Aye. Okay. And now we are down to old business. There is none. Matters not addressed at the work session meeting. Mr. Dew, you're handy. Could you talk to us about the traffic impact analysis?
Thank you. Mayor Lowe, members of council, you had before you in your, or I think it was sent later on, but the proposal we received from Davenport, a consulting firm that specializes in traffic impact analysis. Following Virginia procurement law, we went through a competitive negotiation process to get to this point. We sent out a request for proposal. We received 6 proposals from different consultants to do a traffic impact analysis for the proposed sports complex. We had a review committee put together. It consisted of staff members and Councilman Craig to look at, review the proposals and score them. Then we met as a committee and decided on 3 firms that we wanted to interview to continue the process. After those interviews were over, the committee again got together, and the recommendation was that we continue negotiations with Davenport. And at this stage of the process, again, following the Virginia procurement law, that's when we get a proposal from the consultant, and we're at that time allowed to discuss cost or fees for the services. That's included in the proposal. We worked with them to develop the scope of work, and I feel like the scope that's included in that proposal is pretty extensive, and I think it's exactly what we're looking for to get a clear view of the impact of this development on the neighboring road network. So the proposal's there for your consideration, and I think what we were looking for tonight is authorization to award the contract to this consultant, Davenport, and authorize the town manager to secure the funds for it. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Council, do you have any questions? So, Mr. Craig, do you have any comments about the?
No, I'm ready to make a motion if you want.
Okay.
Mayor, I move that we accept the proposal of Davenport for the traffic impact study for the sports complex, authorize the town manager to to execute any and all documents necessary to contract with the firm, and further to draw down the sum of $68,500 plus any additional reimbursable expenses from the bond funds.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson?
I have to, may we discuss this? Is it open for discussion?
Sorry, I thought-
Is
Yeah,
that
I'm
okay?
sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say a couple things here, and I appreciate all the work that Mr. Dew and Planning Commission and Mr. Craig does on trying to make this traffic impact analysis happen. I know it's a lot of work, and I know that it's just a lot of hours that they put in this, but I've got another opinion of this, because based on the recommendation of the Virginia Department of Historic Resources, they have recommended to place the house and 40 acres of the meadows in the National Registry of Historic Places. That was in the paper the other day. Also, based on the survey of S&ME, the archaeological study, they've also recommended the house and 40 acres to be placed on the National Registry. So I am all for safety, just so that the citizens of Abingdon know this, and I agree we need a traffic analysis if this sports field complex goes through, but we're still kind of balancing this, trying to see what's going to happen. So I'm going to have to say nay at this time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lo?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okey dokey. We are down to.
No, we've got one more, and that is the January meeting.
Okay.
The January meeting will land on January the 2nd this upcoming year. That by the state is going to use that as their celebrated holiday, which means that the town will also assume the same thing. So offices will be closed on the 2nd. So in talking to all the members, the ones that were the most conducive time for us to have a meeting would be January the 11th. And so I would move that we move the January 2nd normal meeting of the Abington Council to January the 11th, and this is of 2017.
Do I have a second?
No second.
Just to clarify, is that the work session at 5:30 and the regular meeting as well?
It is.
That is a Wednesday, right?
It is a Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday.
Okay, and we had a second?
Yes, I
Mr.
second.
Howard.
Okay. Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lowe?
Aye.
And Madam Mayor, if I might just reiterate to council, because of a medical procedure that I have to have that day, I will not be present, but Ms. Rosenbaum will be here in my place.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, appointments to boards and committees. There are none. Council member reports. Mr. Craig.
I'd just like to report that the Meals on Wheels program needs help, and that Cindy and I are sponsoring a musical event. It's bluegrass music at the Senior Center or the Community Center on November the 12th, and tickets are available there, and appreciate any support you all could give for that. Also, I'd like to make a brief report on BVU. I don't know if anybody is interested in this or not, but BVU is negotiating to sell Optinet to Sunset Digital, a private company, and the negotiations have moved forward. There's a lot of complicated grant funding, reimbursements, and things like that. And they've made a lot of progress, and the Cumberland Plateau Company is it's difficult to deal with them because they have complications. But it has moved forward, and hopefully this will happen sooner or later. And I'll get off the BVU board.
Well, Mr. Craig, from the Vice Mayor's perspective, thank you very much for your time and your patience you show on this. You have the professionalism and also the knowledge of infrastructure to really benefit that board. And I'm just like that you're benefiting this board with the traffic analysis and stuff that you have expertise in, which is very wonderful. Thank you for doing that for BVU. I know I've said thank you before. I want to say thank you in front of everybody so that you don't tell me I didn't. Because
I appreciate that, Rick.
But yes, thank you, sir.
I appreciate that.
Ms. Patterson.
I had a comment about Ms. McCoy's noticing of the traffic or all the noise at the Creeper Trail there where the sports field complex was. I know Ms. McCoy's already gone, but I wanted to comment on this. When we had a ribbon cutting at Captain D's, I also noticed that. I couldn't hardly hear anyone speaking there that day, and it was quite disturbing. I don't know how we're going to hear that, but anyway, I'll move on to the rest of my reports. I'm happy to say that I met with a veteran. His name is Doyle Boothroyd. He was in the Navy under Admiral Halty's staff. He was on the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, September 2nd, 1945, when they signed the peace treaty with Japan, when we signed the peace treaty with Japan. Just want to tell you all about the Veterans Park ceremony that we're going to have on November the 11th at the 11th hour. I'd like to welcome you all to come and bring your neighbors and your friends. We'd love for you to come. I know that Mr. Kevin Worley with the Abington Parks and Recreation Department, he's worked very hard to help us get this program together, as well as the board members. And I just want to send out a huge thank you for his team as well that works with him and Mr. Worley and everyone on the board. I played a small role of getting the music involved. We're going to have the Patrick Henry woodwinds, and we're going to have the Patrick Henry Choir performing. So again, please come out and see this beautiful ceremony that we're going to have. I went to the Veterans, I'm on the board, of course, or the committee of the Veterans Memorial Park Foundation, so I went to that meeting as well. We've gone to a couple since, I guess, this last town council meeting. I also went to the Historic Preservation Review Board meeting, and I think that will do it for my council report, but I do have one more thing to put on the record, please, this evening. I'd like to first of all, thank Ms. Cecile Rosenbaum for getting me some documents that I asked her to give me the other day in regards to a piece of property, 448 Green Spring Road here in Abingdon. I noticed that there were some folks working down there from the town of Abingdon, and also I had some citizens tell me that they were working down there as well. And I called Mr. Greg Kelly, and thank you, Mr. Kelly, for your quick response and also helping in getting those two documents. I had a question for Mr. Kelly down in the work session meeting, and I told Mr. Kelly I'm not an attorney, and the two documents that I looked at was a right of entry agreement, and also the agreement between the town and Marathon Realty. But I couldn't see anything in there where we are supposed to maintain property that belongs to Marathon Realty. Marathon Realty bought that piece of property. So I would ask Mr. Kelly, if he doesn't mind, to explain the concerns that we do have on the boarding of the house. The boarding was done by the town of Abingdon employees. Also, debris was removed with trucks. And there was 4 men working on that project, and several days beforehand they were working on that project as well. And also, there's one more thing. in the outbuilding that they had, there was a lot of debris and trash there. And so I just wanted to clarify why that the town of Abingdon was paying for this when it's owned by Marathon Realty, and Mr. Smith would maybe be responsible for that payment, to take care of that business. So, Mr. Kelly, could you help us understand that, please?
Sure, Ms. Patterson, I'd be happy to. When we got into the agreements that we got into for the acquisition of the property, and we had meetings with VDOT, there were several ways of going about getting access to the properties, one of which was condemnation. At that point in time, the council, while not taking it off the table, did not wish to pursue that. The other way is for the town to acquire the property itself, which ultimately we will. The property is currently in the process of being appraised. In the meantime, Marathon bought the necessary properties, and for us to be able to proceed, us being the town to proceed, VDOT required that Marathon give to the town a document which is known as the right of entry. And they documented every single tract of land that they had acquired that is necessary for the road project. The town is obligated from a liability standpoint to make sure that all the properties that it exercises control over, which once we got right of entry, we did have control over the property at that point in time. And we noticed that windows and doors and various other things had been removed and the property was blighted. So I sent the town crews over to make sure that it was rendered safe, and they boarded up windows and they cleared the debris to prevent from any attractive nuisances, which is a legal terminology, from existing for people who might accidentally or intentionally wind up on that property. And also, we do this routinely. In the last month, I think we've boarded up 3 other buildings that are blighted in the town of Abingdon for the very reason of protecting ourselves from liability, which we have no actual ownership in, but our ordinances do allow for.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I just want that read into the minutes, though, okay? I mean, as a record. Okay, thank you. Ethan? I don't have anything else.
Okay. Mr. Humphries?
Oh, I
Vice
don't
Mayor.
I don't have very many things. I want to thank Deb Eisenhower. You know, we have noise ordinance in town, and the noise ordinance we have two prime violators, one of them being the Norfolk and Southern Railway. And our ordinance states that they cannot blow their horn or sound their horn unless they have an emergency from 11 at night to 6 in the morning. And they, whether that's a rookie engineer or what on, they have been violating that frequently. She has made calls to the train folks. And then the other is with waste management and the pickup of their garbage. And anybody that's close to their garbage pickup, will know that they're not supposed to be the same thing, 6 o'clock in the morning. And they've been coming at 3 and 3:30 in the morning and 4 o'clock. And I too, having a business like Mrs. Patterson, breaks people up out of their beds, and so I get quite a bit of feedback from them about surprised that the town would let someone do that. So, Waste Management, my understanding, has been contacted. There are fines in place, and I would like to see about the town of Abingdon making sure that we do have that in effect, and we do authorize the go ahead of them. This is something to think about, nothing to act on now. Those fines are $200 for the first, $300 for the second, and $1,000 for the third. Is that correct?
It depends on whether it's civil.
Right, criminal. Yeah. Well, I would think so it's in that neighborhood. It wouldn't even bother me to see it upped a little bit higher than that. And also maybe look at trying to change at least the waste management ordinance until 7 o'clock in the morning. We can look at that maybe in a work session sometime. So, anyway, those two things. And then the last thing is I wanted to thank from this horseshoe, I guess that's what they call it now, Matthew Johnson for his diligent work over the last 2 years. He has been professional in manner. He has been someone who has been a resource, and also someone who likes to sit down and talk to people about what's going on. Matthew doesn't usually hesitate to say, let's talk about it, and that bodes well for any type of authoritative government or official to be able to welcome someone and say, let's look at it together. And so, Matthew, I know you'll be successful in whatever endeavor you're involved in the future. Thank you for your service to the town, and thank you for your friendship. So,
Mr. Howard?
I'll just mention a couple items that I talked about in the work session tonight. Jennifer Montgomery is our Main Street coordinator, and I've been meeting with Virginia Highlands Community College to try to establish some partnerships between the college and the town, so we're working on that. Also, one other item, District 3, which provides a bus service for here in town, will probably be adding a second route next year, and we're working with them on that. That's all I have.
Ms. Lowe, can I mention one thing?
You can.
I just want to dovetail. I want to tag along on what Bob Howard said about District 3 buses. There was a real concern from several people. In fact, I took one of them for early voting because he was told that there would not be bus service to Abingdon Elementary where he votes at. Mr. Howard and Mr. Kelly informed me that anyone that you know that rides the public transit, if they will tell the driver they would like to be taken to their polling place and tell them which polling place it is, they will take them to the polling place. So, if you thought that some of them think they're not going to get to vote, and this will allow them to be able to vote, especially the people like that I took that have no driver's license or no way to get there other than public transit and friends. That's it.
Okay. So I had a busy month. I spoke to People Incorporated, the small business unit. I spoke to the Morning Rotary Club about small business and how the town works with small business. I spoke with Kathy Baldwin and Kathy Shearer today. I met with them for about 3 hours with the Virginia Organizing Project. The Business Challenge received a $1,000 award from Walmart for the Small Business Challenge to be an award for the winning pitch during the Business Challenge pitch night. Business Challenge deadline entry is January I believe it's the 11th, and no, the 17th, and the first class starts on January the 24th. I attended the ribbon cutting for the Antique Barn. If you haven't been down there, please do go. They've got a lot of really neat stuff. I participated with the Gillen Foundation and the Governor's Virginia Velocity Tour and in a one-day business challenge, and they gave away $10,000 for the winning business, and we were lucky enough to have our own white birch juice win that $10,000 award, and I was thrilled to see that. I went to a TSA opening at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and if you haven't been up there, you can go to the TSA office and pre-register if you are a frequent flyer, or if you just don't want to have to stand in all those long lines. You can go up and be registered at the DMV across from the hospital on Highway 11. I attended a Southwest Virginia branding meeting. I attended the dedication of the Barter stage, and I went to Knoxville with some of the town staff. We were looking at some economic development / tourism possibilities. I actually am going to be dedicating a tree at the Veterans Park on November the 11th to my uncle who served in both Korea and World War II. I spoke to a group that Mr. Humphreys had at his bed and breakfast and gave them all the coveted Abingdon Town Pen.
General Microcircuits was the name of the group.
General Microcircuits.
Out of Mooresville, North Carolina.
It was quite a large group, and White Birch Juice was there with their breakfast, and I was glad to see them there. We have pens now. We're going to give pens tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I guess, to the volleyball. The girls volleyball team at Abingdon High School won the district, and of course, I think you've already read the golf team won the district. So I've got pens for all of those young people. And Watauga Elementary won the National Blue Ribbon School Award and wanted us to work with the county to place their sign at an entrance showing that Abingdon is proud of them, and we are working with the county to do that. And I'm speaking tomorrow to a group of, is it 7th graders? And we have about 900 7th graders at EB Elementary who are participating in an essay contest, If I Were Mayor. So it's been a busy month, and it's been lots of fun. I do want to reiterate all of the things that Mr. Humphrey said about Matthew Johnson. It has been a pleasure to work with Matthew, and I wish him all the best in his new endeavors. I thank him for his leadership and his guidance, and I hope you come back often. And Mr. Humphreys reminded me, the golf team, Andrew Spiegler actually was the state Division III champion for the second year in a row. So I'm going to tell you that we have a lot of things going on, and I hope that I don't miss anything. We've had a couple of announcements that are not on the monitor. The Friday, December the 2nd is the Town of Abingdon tree lighting at the Abingdon Farmers Market from 6 to 7. Friday, December the 2nd, the Coombs Center Holiday Express is from 7 to 9. Is Santa Claus going to be around? Oh, good. Saturday, December the 3rd is the 48th Annual Kiwanis Christmas Parade, and it's at 6 o'clock. Martha Keys wanted me to remind everybody that the Historical Society of Washington County and Holston Mountain Artisans are having a Christmas open house from 3 to 5 before the Christmas parade at 306 Depot Square. They are also going to have refreshments and pictures with Santa, kids or pets. So that should be very interesting. If anybody would like to receive a copy of the announcements and the schedule of events, if you would contact Tanya Triplett or Cecile Rosenbaum, I think they can shoot that out to you in an email. So I'll be happy to read. November 4th and 5th was Mistletoe Market, and I hear they had a very good turnout. November the 7th, tonight was a free event for Young Playwrights Festivals, and they performed for the public at Barter Stage 2. The Higher Ed Center had indoor grilling. Tomorrow, vote early and vote often. Tomorrow is Election Day, and they're having an Election Day hootenanny. I'm not sure what that is, at William King at 6 p.m. November the 9th, we have Noon Knowledge. Is your business group tour friendly? That's a Small Business Incubator from 12 to 1:30. November the 10th, Autumn Landscape Painting Class with Gino DiDio at Heartwood at 6:30. November the 11th is Veterans Day, and Ms. Patterson has told you about the ceremony at 11 o'clock at Veterans Park. November the 12th, America Recycles Day, 9 to 1 at Abingdon Police Department. E-waste, document shredding, accepting food donations for Second Harvest Food Bank, and gently used shoes. November the 12th, concert, dinner, and fundraiser for Meals on Wheels featuring bluegrass band Boots on the Ground, Abingdon Community Center, 6 to 8. November 13th, Barter Theater performs Chicago with the Symphony of the Mountains at the Toy F. Reed Center in Kingsport. November 14th, Colors and Flavors of the Feast with Matt Henry at the Higher Ed Center. November the 16th, Noon Knowledge, Generational Recruiting at the Small Business Incubator. November the 18th, A Christmas Carol begins performances at the Barter Theater. November the 22nd, 7:30, Over the River and Through the Woods begins their performances at Barter Stage 2. November the 23rd, that's a duplicate, okay. Town offices are closed at noon on November the 23rd and will be closed the 24th and 25th for the Thanksgiving holiday. They have a Thanksgiving buffet at Heartwood from 11 to 5. Reservations are recommended. November the 25th, 8 p.m., opening night of A Christmas Carol with a gala at the Barter Theater. November the 28th, Healthy and Hearty Main Dish Soups with Sean Cruikshank at the Higher Ed Center at 6 o'clock. December the 2nd is the Over 50 Expo at the Higher Ed Center. December the 3rd is MLH Local Hack Day at the Higher Ed Center. December the 5th is Festive Artisan Breads for the Holiday with Kelly Mail at the Higher Ed Center. Community Christmas is on December the 7th at the Barter Theater. And Holiday Cookie Making with Francine Ivory is on December the 12th at the Higher Ed Center. And Mr. Humphreys looks like he has some more.
No, just when is the Christmas tree lighting?
That's December the 2nd at the Abingdon Farmers Market from 6 to 7. And then the Coombs Center is having the Holiday Express immediately after that at the Coombs Center.
Oh, so we gotta go up to the Coombs Center?
Yes.
Okay. We're not gonna have it down there, it's gonna be up there.
The Holiday Express is our event that we started last year for the kids.
Yeah.
We had about 700 last year.
Right.
And right now with our Facebook reaches, we're going to be well over 1,000. So we have some stuff that stays at the farmer's market, from the end of the lighting until about 8:30, and then everything else will be at the rec center.
Okay, will there be refreshments down at the tree lighting? Okay, and then you'll have the 1,000 kids up at the other place?
Wherever else they go.
Yep.
As you can see, there's a lot going on. The Chamber of Commerce website has a lot of things on their calendars. I'm sure we've missed something, so, read the wolf whistle, because that's generally where all of the things that we miss in our documentation shows up, so.
All right.
I think she pretty much does, but
No, I mean, it's all scheduled.
the whole schedule?
No schedule? There you go.
Okay. Good idea. Anything else? Council? I call the meeting adjourned.
So the second, we just go down there. Santa Claus comes. They have, it's really neat because they have the choirs and stuff down there. So they'll have the